Hey, this is another video about connecting the Arduino and TouchDesigner. So I have a student who's using a rotary encoder connected to an Arduino, and they want, when you turn to the right, they want some value in TouchDesigner to increase. When you turn to the left, it should decrease. So I've got a sample program that I just quickly threw together that is basically just spitting out zeros and negative ones and ones. So let's take a look. If I just add a serial DAT and choose the right port and the right baud rate, I can see there are some zeros, some ones, and probably some minus ones. Yeah, some minus ones showing up as well every half second. So what I want is to have this affect maybe the radius of a circle. So I will add a circle and I'll just add an out after that and look at it in the background here. It's kind of gritty looking, pixelated, so I can click on the circle and change the radius from 256 by 256 to something better like 1280 by 720. Of course, the size isn't right, so I'll go to the circle and hold down the middle button so that I change the X and Y radius at the same time. 0.1 seems good for now. So that's a good starting point, and then it'll go up and down from there. Okay, so what I would like is for some value to affect that, and I think what I'll do is add a constant chop. This will be the place where that number is growing and decreasing. And since I'm going to connect that to the circle's radius, I want to add a null chop after it. And that's the thing that will supply the radius. So let me just do that right now. Drag it onto radius and choose chop reference. It's 0 right now, so that's not helpful. But let's try and get this value to change depending on what's here. So the way I can do that is click on viewer active here and edit. And the first thing is, can I get access to those numbers that are coming across? And are they numbers at all? Or are they strings, you know, like 2 characters for a minus sign and a 1, not just actually a value of -1, which I think is the case. Let's see if we can just print it out. And if we go to dialogues, teleport, textport, and DAT, and then it shows some of those numbers coming across. So it's working. So instead of printing that message, instead what I probably want to do is change the value here in this constant. And I don't use TouchDesigner much, so I think I'm going to have to try and guess at this. But I think I want to change this operator, so I give it the name in quotes. But then I'm not exactly sure how to change the value of a channel. So let me just see if I can just ask ChatGPT. In TouchDesigner Python. So I'm not just talking about Python, and I'm not just talking about TouchDesigner. In TouchDesigner Python, that's how I always start these. How can I change the value of a constant chop? Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, so it looks like we just need .par parameter, and maybe value 0 is a kind of a keyword. It doesn't really seem to depend on, yeah, this is just the parameters of the constant chop channel. So it seems like no matter what I've named the channel or anything, this is probably, hopefully going to work. So let me just try that. And I'll just set it to 56 for now. And we can see it is getting 56. Every time something comes in, it sets it to 56. What I actually want to do is probably change its value by whatever the message is. So that's adding either -1, +1, or nothing. And I'm getting an error. So let me click on this. It says there's unsupported operand types for plus equals. Float and string. So float and string aren't compatible. Float is a number, and which is in here. It's a number. And over here, these are coming across as strings. So maybe I'll ask ChatGPT again, you know, because it remembers that I'm using TouchDesigner Python. I don't have to tell it again, but how can I convert a string to a number? It looks like I can just use the int function. So I'll wrap the message with int, and hopefully that'll do it. And there it is. Now, it started out at a really high number. So yeah, how do I do this? Maybe, I don't know how to reset that. Maybe, can I just type in a 0 here? Okay, there we go. So I typed in a 0, and now it's going up sometimes, going down sometimes. And obviously that number is too big because the circle is getting very large, or it's not a good range. So anytime we're out of range, we have the wrong range, we can use the math chop to handle that. So let me drag this over a bit and insert in here a math chop. I often use range, but I don't know what the range is. Like in theory, if I've got some bad luck or somebody is turning the rotary encoder, to the right forever, it could get a really big number. So instead of using range, I'm going to use op or multi-add. I'm going to multiply it times 0.1. So now we've got a number that's like closer to the right size. But you can see it's really jumping a lot. So maybe what I can do is change this to like a really small number. So I'm multiplying it by 0.001. So now you can see the movement of the circle is much less, but it's it's very small. So I can add, after they're doing the multiply, so I've got 0.004, I can add 0.1, which is my starting size that I had originally. So now you can see it's growing slowly or slightly and decreasing slightly every time a message comes in. So hopefully that helps. There's, obviously a lot more you can do, and it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, but this at least shows you how to get a string that looks like a number that is actually a string coming over from the serial port, and then having it change some value in TouchDesigner.